musician in jazz.
So, look at the Bluesmen who you tell tales of in those two chapters. Who among them mean most to you?
Good question, for different reasons. Dr. Roscoe's was the craziest person I've ever met in my life. Cousin Joe was the coolest man I ever... He had so many sayings that I never quite understood. They sound so cool. When he first came to England, he'd never met me, I'd never met him, we'd do all by letter. Letters were things people used to write on paper in those days and put a stamp on and post, and there's none of this Googling and schmoogling. He arrived at Heathrow, and to arrivals he came out in his red suit, red trousers, red socks, red shirt, red hat, and I had sort of hair in those days, being just out of Black Sabbath era. Oh yeah. And he looked around, and I said, "Cousin Joe." He said, "What?" I said, "You're Cousin Joe?" He said, "Yeah." "You're not Jim Simpson?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Shit, I'm flying 3,500 miles. My fucking manager's a hippie." Which is the beginning of a long friendship.
Is that it then?
Oh, more.
Not more, mine. I was thinking of McCouston.
Oh, Mickey Begg. I tell you what, writing those two chapters about the blues, I got angry all over again the way these guys were treated. Big Bear Records, our label, had 3 million selling blues artists on it. Sadly, they didn't sell 1 million records on Big Bear, they sold it beforehand elsewhere. But the fact that we had access to guys of this stature was absolutely a disgrace. I grew up in an era where I just loved American record companies. People like Sam Phillips and Sun Records in Memphis, Tennessee was one of my heroes, and I loved all those little small records like Modern, and particularly Atlantic. I mean, you really respected Jerry Wexler at Atlantic and Leonard Chess at Chess. As I got to know more about it, I didn't feel so good about it. Tommy Tucker, I hope you all know Tommy Tucker. He wrote and sang a monstrous hit with High Heel Sneakers, which was a hit worldwide and is still played by... It's played by Henry's every second week, someone plays High Heel Sneakers. He wrote that record and had a huge hit. That did 6.5 million units on Chess. He had 2 flops to follow up. In the meantime, he'd been on a coast-to-coast tour, co-headlining with Ray Charles. After 2 flops, they released him. We found him driving an estate agent's delivery truck in Springfield, Ohio. That was his job. He didn't even play piano anymore. Memphis Slim, one of the great piano players, hit makers, songwriters in America, relocated to Paris. And he phoned me one day and said, "You've got to come to Paris." I said, "Why?" Because I used to give him gigs. I knew him. He said, "It's a piano player, what are you here?" So I went to Paris, stayed with Slim, and he took this little cafe run by a very, very beautiful young French girl whose boyfriend was Willie Mabon. And he was playing in that room, piano pushed to the wall, not even singing. Willie Mabon was the first million seller ever on Chess Records. He'd ended up driving a truck in West Memphis, Tennessee. He met Memphis Slim, and Memphis persuaded him to come to Paris, and that's where he met this girl, which was pretty good luck. She was a lovely girl, and she had a cafe. Come on, couldn't do better than that. A French cafe owner, rocking, and he played piano and background music. And we brought him to England, made 3 albums with him, and he was absolutely. He wrote songs that were performed in the Blues Brothers movie, the greatest movie ever made. Some of his songs, a song called "I Don't Know," for instance, was in that film. And the third one we had was Mickey Baker himself, who Ron just mentioned. Mickey had a funny old background. His auntie turned tricks, as they said. No, but she didn't like being too close to men, so when she lured her trick into the garage court, Mickey's job was to stand there with a baseball bat, whack him over the head, take his money and run. He didn't really see this as much of a career in front of him, so he relocated to New York because he wanted to be a jazz player. He wanted to play trumpet like Dizzy Gillespie. So he got a job washing dishes. With his first $150, he had what they call a slow eye. I'm not very know much about it. He wasn't cross-eyed, but his one eye was slower to relocate the other one. At 15 years of age, he went to a hospital with $150 and they took his eye out because he asked them to. God bless America. He saved his money up, went to this music store to buy his trumpet. The glib salesman there convinced him he should buy a guitar, which he did. It had a bent neck, but very hard to play, which was good, because it really forced him to learn to play properly. It was very hard to play a guitar with a twisted neck. He paid for lessons through his washing up gigs, and every time he went to a lesson, I'm going on a bit here. Every time he went to a lesson, he came home and wrote it all down. After a while, he got on the road playing guitar, got in a combo, and set off on a coast-to-coast tour, east to west. Somewhere near California, the band ran out of money, ran out of gigs, and he hitchhiked into Los Angeles, and Pee Wee Creighton was playing in a ballroom just outside Los Angeles, guitar player singer. And Mickey went to hear him, of course. And outside was part of Cadillac Eldorado in white, which of course Mickey sort of fancied it. Went into the dressing room afterwards, and apparently he said to Pee Wee, he was a bit of a star, he said, "Pee Wee said, how come you got a Cadillac Eldorado out there? Play chicken shit guitar like you do." So anyway, that convinced him to become a blues guitar player. So he forgot about jazz, and he got a gig playing. He was a house guitar player for Atlantic Records. I don't know if you know what that means exactly, but Atlantic was churning out hit after hit after hit. Mickey said he would go in 10 o'clock on a Monday morning into the studio and say, "Hello, Maisie." And she said, "Oh, Mr. Baker." He said, "Where am I today?" He said, "Oh, Studio 3 with the Drifters." "Okay." And he'd do 3 songs by lunchtime. Have some lunch, come back. Okay, where am I supposed to do? "Oh, Studio 5 with the Coasters." He is on so many records in your dad and mother's record collection you will not believe. Then he wrote a song called "Love is Strange," a hit with himself and Sylvia Vanderpool, who then was Sylvia Robinson before. No, she was Sylvia Vanderpool. She married Joe Robinson, a World Platinum, and recorded "Love is Strange," Mickey's song, which was a monstrous hit for him and Sylvia, as Mickey and Sylvia. Exactly 10 years later, it was a hit for the Everly Brothers, and 10 years after that, it was on none of the million seller, it was on the first Paul McCartney Wings album, and he wrote the song. He found out he was being cheated out of his royalties. Oh, what a surprise. And he got disgusted. And he's a very sophisticated man, he's very intelligent, but he had no education, so he didn't know very much about life in general, but he knew in Paris, France, a woman called Josephine Baker, you probably all know about Josephine, was a heroine. She was a cabaret singer, she did a very famous banana dance, she was the star of Moulin Rouge. During the war, she adopted, got to displaced children, which she called a Rainbow Tribe, and she got given the highest medal in France. I don't know what it's called, but it's like the Victoria Cross in France. Légion d'honneur, that's right. And he knew she was a big deal in Paris. So he said, "Well, she's black, I'm going to Paris." And he got on the Ile de France. And her name Baker as well. So he got on the Ile de France with a guitar case in one hand, all his worldly belongings in his other hand. He got the Ile de France, to Cherbourg, he took the train to Paris. And this next part of the narrative, I have 2 versions of. One from Mickey, and one from a man called Georges Barclay. And they're remarkably similar. Mickey had heard about Barclay Records, the big French record company. Most record companies like in France, like Pathé Marconi, would lease in stuff from the other EMI groups worldwide and release that as well. Barclay recorded French product. So he went into the Barclay office, said to the girl, "I want to see Georges Barclay, I'm Mickey Baker." And he goes, "Oh yeah, big deal." So, "Mr. Barclay, there's some bloke out there says he wants to talk to him." George said, "Mickey Baker." Well, they embraced him, and he recorded 316 sides with Mickey Baker. He played everywhere from François Sardy to Johnny Hallyday to all the great French chanson singers, which is wonderful and amazing, and Mickey made a great living from it. Amazingly, he never recorded Mickey Baker as Mickey Baker, and I never understood why. We being Dr. Ross and myself this time, we played a festival in Nancy in France, and Mickey Baker was on the bill. Now, I didn't know anything about Mickey other than he's recorded in America. I didn't know what he'd done in France. I knew him as one of the great rock and roll rhythm and blues guitar players ever. We got to the hotel, Dr. Ross and I threw my bag on my bed. I went outside with a cardboard thing, I'd written on it the name of the venue, which I can't remember it is now. Carrefour, I said, take
I've read all this before.
Take me to Carrefour, I said. So I got the cab, and he took me to a supermarket called Carrefour. Went inside, and Mickey Baker, the fabulous Mickey Baker, was sitting in the corner of a restaurant in a supermarket playing solo guitar to a crowd of people who weren't even listening to it. Well, we recorded it, did a lot with it, worked for 12 years until he decamped to the south of France. So, you did mention Mickey Baker.
I did. And you forgot to mention one bit of the story that you always build up to, and you built up to, but you didn't tell it.
Sure.
Writing down the lessons.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
When he got short of money in France, he referred to all his notes of his early guitar lessons, and he produced in the end no less than 14 guitar tutor books. I was at an event last Friday in Wolverhampton. It was a heavy metal event to do with Black Sabbath, and there's a guy there with his head was shaven, his hair in the middle was long. You can imagine what he looked like, a real thug. I mentioned Mickey Baker, and he fell over. He said, I've read all his books. I learned to play guitar from Mickey Baker. This rock and roller from Wolverhampton. Great, I thought.
Although segregation in America is largely finished by the time we started, in theory, there was still considerable racism in the United States. How was it, or how did a lot of the American black musicians react when you brought them over to the UK and they were largely playing in front of white audiences? I'm intrigued to know how they felt about it. Well, did they face racism over here, or was it a bit of a revelation that people were quite reasonable?
That's something I'm really fascinated by. I mean, for instance, we brought Dr. Ross over. He was working in the Pontiac car factory in Pontiac, Michigan, sweeping up the scrap bits of metal off the floor. And he came over and it was part of American Blues Legends tour, and we did 7 weeks. 42 days. In concert halls, playing to audiences between 400 and 1,100, 1,200 people. And he took it in his stride like another day it wasn't Pontiac cars, it was General Motors. Like another day at General Motors. Other people, the first time I did a Blues Legends tour, you got 9 guys on the road, 6 bluesmen, a driver, and an English rhythm section. You've got to lay down the law a bit. So I decided to give a lecture to start with. And apparently I started by saying, "Good morning, gentlemen." And afterwards, after the laying down the law, Lightning Slim, 60-odd years old, the greatest swamp blues guitar player ever, took me aside and said, "Thanks, man." He said, "Nobody ever called me a gentleman before."
Now that's something you should have put in and didn't. That's one thing.
No, but it's really strange. And people like John Rencher couldn't believe it. John Rencher wouldn't leave a hall, constable, until he'd shaken everybody's hands. He'd stay there, sitting on front of the stage, while the audience came up to him until like an hour and a half after the gig. And when he went back, there's a story. It's actually not my story. It's a guy called, I forgot his name. He's head of the Swedish Blues Association. He's in the current Henry's Blues Letter. He brought Rencher over from me to play in Sweden and Denmark, and when he went back to US, back to Chicago where he lived, he went on holiday to his hometown, as he kept doing, Sunflower, Mississippi, and nobody there would believe he'd been to Europe and played for British audiences. And he called Hans Schweitz, that's the guy's name, called Hans Schweitz and said, "Hans, have you got a poster of that concert we played in Stockholm?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Can you send it to me?" And he sent the poster over, which apparently to this day still sits in the barber shop somewhere in Sunflower, Mississippi, to prove that John Rencher actually did go and play over there.
A nice one on the culture clash is your story of Dr. Ross and the Noisy Lads.
Go on, remind me.
Clapton.
What?
Well, Clapton, wasn't it? Who gave the money for using his song?
Clapton, yeah. Dr. Ross Harmonic Boss was a strange guy. He was from Tunica, Mississippi. He was a star of Sun Records when they were known as Race Records. That means making records by black artists for black audiences, mainly sold through the Mississippi juke joints. He sung there called Cat Squirrel, which was a million seller for Cream, and later on for Jethro, and later on it was on the Clapton solo album. He came over to UK, we toured him. In those days, Oxford Street was, there were cars, it wasn't pedestrianised, and he's sitting in the back of a cab with it on the way to a gig at the 100 Club. He kept looking at me in a funny way. He said, "Man, you face me of somebody," which apparently means I reminded him of somebody. I said, "Oh yeah." He was the most jive-talking man I met in my life. Most of what I said was rubbish. You just sort of treated it as back row noise. You didn't actually try and understand what he was saying. But he persisted about how I looked like somebody. I said, "What do I look like?" He says, "Yeah, man, I got long hair at the time, like everybody had." He said, "Yeah, you look like Eric." I said, "Who's Eric?" I said, "Eric Clapton?" "Yeah, man, Eric Clapton." I said, "How do you know Eric Clapton?" He said, "Came by my house." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Him or those other boys?" I said, "You mean Jamaica and Jack Bruce?" "I don't know, I think it's just ginger-headed man." Anyway, they went by his house in Flint, Michigan, thanked him for the song he'd written, Cat Squirrel. He said, "They paid me some money, man." I said, "They paid you how much?" He said, $200. Mean ass sons of bitches, eh? For a hit like that, they gave him $200. Anyway, I said, "What are they doing there?" He said, "They're playing the Blues Festival at Ann Arbor, Michigan." I said, "Yeah?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I went with them." I said, "You played with them?" "Yeah, man. In those days, we were all besotted with Cream. I don't rate me much I did." I said, "You played with Cream?" "Yeah. Yeah, man, went on stage with Cream." I said, "Wow." I said, "What do you think of them?" He said, "Well," he didn't want to upset me, you see. He said, "Well," he said, "there was nice boys. It was awful loud."